equaled only by the great Jack Whittingham.
You said those Argentinian horses like Bayacoa and Passiana and Different and Festine. This one has speed. Bacchanali chose the #1 post in the post position draw and told me he thinks Asadero is going to go right to the front.
Chesterhouse is a 5-year-old son of Mr. Prospector. He was second to Ladies Den in the Eddie Reed in his last out.
He was formerly a European, and you see he's still got a little of that European in him with no pony accompanying him in the post parade. You heard him making noise in the paddock there, according to Charles D., and trainer Bobby Frankel hopes he saves some of that noise for the 8th pole.
Godolphin Racing is represented by Slickley, and this is his first start outside of his native France.
Now, the Arlington Million is part of the Emirates World Series of Racing, as we've said, which is sponsored by Sheikh Mohammed. The big question here, is this the A horse that Godolphin has over there right now to bring here, or do they just want to be politically correct and make sure they bring some horse to this race? That's the question handicappers have, but clearly he can run a little.
Manndar has won $650,000 in 13 lifetime starts, including 2 straight Grade 1s.
He is an off-the-pace kind of horse, dependent, of course, on some of the early fractions. He'll be mid-pack or so. The question here is the 70-day layoff.
Bien Amado has won 2 in a row, including a romp in the Sunset Handicap.
And look how gorgeous this one is. Bien Amado's grandsire Manila won this race in 1987, so there's a little Arlington Million history in his pedigree there.
The world-traveling Running Stag is making career start number 40. He has won $1.6 million.
The question here is he going to be as good on turf as he is on dirt? He's had plenty of turf races, 1 for 19, as we said. What Phil Mitchell, the trainer, likes to point out is the race in Hong Kong last December, where he was second to a pretty good horse named Jim and Tonic on grass.
And rounding out the field, Mula Gula, 4-year-old son of Lil E.T., who won the Kentucky Derby back in 1992.
Talk about racing luck. His Washington owner, Stephen Gula, had never owned a horse before. Decided to buy this one for $6,000, and Mula Gula now has made a little less than $500,000, but is a legitimate long shot in this race.
Well, my question is, which one of the 7 will be the Bud Long shot? Only Randy Moss knows, but we're going to find out when we come back.
We all knew that going in, but right now you see Asadero and Manndar. They are the co-favorites right now, and actually a little more money bet on Asadero at the present time. Not by much, though. And Chesterhouse and Bien Amado are the 7-2 co-second choices.
All right, to get today's Bud Long shot, we factored in some frequent flyer miles, added in some passport stamps, and here's what we came up with.
Well, if we're talking about frequent flyer miles and passport stamps, it can only mean one horse, and there you see him all by his lonesome on the Arlington backstretch. It's Running Stag, who right now is 9-1 on the board. The question, as I've mentioned earlier, that all the handicappers have about Running Stag, can he run as well on the grass as he does on the dirt? We know how good he is on the main track. Well, that doesn't seem to bother his trainer, Philip Mitchell.
I promise you, this guy is just as good on grass as he is on dirt. I have no compulsions on that. He ran a mega race in Hong Kong when he was second to Jim and Tonic, and if they'd have gone a little bit lively pace earlier on, there's no question Jim and Tonic would have had a job to catch us, and he only just jumped us in the last 50 yards. So, you know, this guy's as good on grass. It's a fallacy. It's just that he's, in the last really 2 years, he's really matured into a tough road warrior, which is what he's now nicknamed. And I think that I haven't wanted to run him on grass until this race. I've had this race picked out from the day I bought him. I thought that if ever he was going to make it, that's the one race I wanted to have a crack at when he was ready to have a go.
Now, I know those of you watching are saying right now that trainers tend to be prejudiced about their horses, and certainly they do, but the fact remains that if Running Stag competes on the turf at a level even just slightly below his best races on the main track, it still puts him in the ballpark and certainly good enough to be a live Bud Long shot.
Yeah, and that $1.6 million in career earnings.
On him for some time, and we were both watching at 2 different locations, the Eddie Reed in Del Mar, and I called him up immediately after the race. I said, do you think there's any chance we can get on this horse? He said, I'm already on it. So the process was working at the time, and ultimately we ended up securing them out. Well, it was a slow pace, and he was the only horse closing in on Ladies Den at the end of the race, and I thought it was a significant move to close into that pace and still only get beat a couple, 3 lengths. At that point, I thought 1.25 miles would be right up his alley.
And here he is back in the Eddie Reed. How does the presence of Jerry Bailey change things for this horse?
Well, certainly you like to have Jerry Bailey anytime you can get him, and also you like to see a horse with a stride like that the last quarter mile or so. You see him taking second right now, big, long strides. You know this is what impressed Jerry Bailey after those slow early fractions, and if he runs like that today in the Million, he's got a big shot.
And there is Bailey, and we'll find out if the addition of Jerry Bailey changes the future of Chester House.
And speaking of jockeys, there is Bien Amato with an interesting jockey story there. Kent DeZormo is on Bien Amato right now, and that is quite a tough break for Chris McCarron. About a month ago, McCarron was the regular rider for Dark Moon Dancer, another horse trained by Ron McAnally, and Bien Amato. He had to make a choice before the Eddie Reed. He chose to ride Dark Moon Dancer, ostensibly for the Eddie Reed and the Arlington Million. But Dark Moon Dancer came up hurt, and he's missing the Million. The owners and the trainer of Bien Amato, the Toffins and Sangster and Paco Gonzalez, chose to make a jockey switch immediately. They didn't wait to see if Dark Moon Dancer was going to run, so McCarron's out in the cold. And now, for the first time, this horse will be ridden by Kent DeZormo. That's quite a tough break. You see all these jockey maneuverings go back and forth, but seldom one that turns out exactly like that.
Well, I don't think I want to play poker with Godolphin Stable. They do a pretty good job of hiding their hand, and you're really not quite sure what you're going to get.
As far as the pace factor in this race goes, I think you can look for Asadero to jump out and take the lead from the inside, and you expect Slickly and also Bien Amato and maybe Mula Gula not to be too far behind. But I agree with what Charlie said. It doesn't appear that there's a whole lot of early speed in this race, so the pace could be a pretty tepid one.
And Bobby Frankel watching on. Had the favorite in the Bevely D. With Happy and You Know It, missed out there, but still has a chance to get the win here with Chester House.
I know Bobby is hoping that we would still be talking about that Bevely D Million double right now, but Happy and You Know It didn't run too badly. He's been talking about the Arlington Million for Chester House since before the Eddie Reed. The Eddie Reed didn't really talk him into it. He knew going in he wanted to use the Eddie Reed as a prep for the Million, and he's got his wish.
All right, for the call of the $2 million Arlington Million, let's go back upstairs to John Dooley.
Finally, Mula Gula and Mark Guidry last in. In the gate. Away and running in the 18th Arlington Million. And here's Asadero out for the lead with Alex Solis, and Running Stag is coming up to him. Then we have Slickly, and Chester House is now gathered in by Jerry Bailey to run in fourth. Bien Amato is next in fifth as they come past the stands for the first time. Then Mula Gula, one from the back, and Manndar is running in seventh with 1 lap to go. And it's Asadero who runs a quarter in 24 and 1. Asadero into the first turn in front of Running Stag by 4. Slickly is running in third in the Godolphin Blue, followed then by Bien Amato, who's off the inside, running in the 3-path on the course. And Jerry Bailey saving all the ground with Chester House. Manndar just in behind them, and Mula Gula now has dropped out to last. 9 from the lead, held by Asadero as they enter the backstretch. He runs a half in 47 and 3. Asadero running unopposed on the lead. Running Stag gives him a 4-length head start with over 4 furlongs still to go in the Million. Chester House has given up no ground. He's inside of Slickly, followed then by Bien Amato running wide. Manndar is in behind of them, still 5 from the unopposed frontrunner, and Mula Gula remains in the back of the field. 6 furlongs, 1, 11, and 4. Asadero setting a solid pace as they leave the backstretch. Running Stag taking a crack now at the frontrunner. Slickly, after more by Frankie Dettori. Chester House is just behind the front. Bien Amato is coming up wide on the course with a very ambitious run. Manndar just behind the front, along with Mula Gula. No torn tickets yet. It is anyone's race at the top of the home stretch. Asadero comes off the turn in front. Jerry Bailey sending Chester House throughout the fence, followed then by Bien Amato. They're coming down for the final furlong, and it's Chester House. Chester House, a flashy run at the fence under Jerry Bailey, followed by Mula Gula, Manndar, then Bien Amato. But Chester House, the hero of the 18th Arlington Million under Jerry Bailey. Chester House has won it by 4. Manndar was second, Mula Gula third, and the time was 2:01 and 1 on the yielding turf.
Well, obviously, when Jerry Bailey was watching the Eddie Reed, he saw something that he really liked, and the politicking pays off today in the $2 million Arlington Million.
Did you see our quick shot of Bobby Frankel's box? It was empty. I think he's sprinting down toward the winner's circle at about the 8th pole. Chester House gives Frankel his first win in the Arlington Million. He was 0 for 11 in this race. A lot's been made that he's winless in the Breeders' Cup. Well, this may be the year with all the fillies he has and with Chester House that he breaks both jinxes. And here's exactly how he did it. And one thing I want to point out to you, Manndar had a horrible trip. That's him in the white chateau, buried behind horses. He's the number 4 horse. all dressed up with absolutely no place to go. Meanwhile, Chester House saves ground, gets through on the rail with the opportunistic Jerry Bailey. Manndar at this point just now shakes free and comes up with a big run to finish second. So it's a good effort for both the winner, Chester House, and the very unlucky runner-up, Manndar.
And they thought he might be just a little bit stronger at this distance of 1.25 miles, and they were exactly right. What a performance by Chester House and the incomparable Jerry Bailey. We'll talk to the winning connections in just a moment.
I don't know about that. He just, as long as you don't turn him loose too soon, it doesn't matter where, how close you're laying. As long as you don't pull the trigger too soon on him, I think that's all it is.
What are we going to do next?
I don't know. We got to discuss it.
Breeders' Cup, turf or dirt?
Well, it's got to be turf now. Maybe in 1.5 miles. Jerry thinks he gets 1.5 miles.
I think you're listening to Jerry Bailey a lot right now.
Well, so far things are going well, Charlie.
Okay, well, congratulations to you both. And we'll go back to Jeff Metters.
All right, it is official now as Chester House gets the win. The time there, 2:01 1/5 on the 1.25 miles, pays $9.60.
We talked a lot about the trainer double. Frankel going for the Bevely D and the Million. Well, we've just seen a jockey double. Jerry Bailey winning with Snow Polina and Chester House, and it's the first time a jockey's ever done that. So we need to give kudos to Jerry there.
And the winning owners, Judd Farms. And let's go back now to the winner's circle and Jack Whitaker.
All right, Jeff, I'm with Corey Nakatani here, and you had one of the roughest rides we've ever seen, Corey.
Well, I wouldn't say the roughest ride. I've had worse, but no, he was definitely much the best horse in this race. And Jerry, the horse on the lead was trying to get out. The horse right in front of me was getting out, and actually the horse that Kent rode, he pushed the other horse one back down, and it got really tight for Jerry and I. And the horse on the lead drifted out, and Jerry was able to get through, and I had nowhere to go.
Well, there you are coming down the stretch. But Manndar,
in a gallop.
In a gallop. Well, you did well to get up there for second. He's been a very honest horse, hasn't he?
Oh, definitely. He's a very honest horse, and Bo did the right thing. Freshening him up, trying to get him into this race. And like I said, if I get any type of trip at all, I just, just one of those things where everybody blocked in front of me, and just Jerry was able to get through on the inside, and he was able to win the race.
Well, you're very nice about it, Corey. Good luck. We'll see you later on down the road.
Got it. Thanks.
Jeff?
Well, we check back in with ESPN.com and our poll results there as Chester House, full order finish first. Chester House, Manndar, Mula Gula, Vienamato, Asadero, Running Stag, and Slickly the top 7. I'm not sure the poll's going to be quite in that order.
That would be quite some prognostication. We haven't talked a lot about breeding here, but just a quick mention. Chester House is the son of the now-deceased Mr. Prospector, and what a big year for Mr. Prospector now that he's gone. Husaichi Pegasus wins the Kentucky Derby. Chester House takes the Arlington Million.
Manndar, despite that long layoff, jumps back up there and finishes in second place.
And you've got the horse coming out of the Eddie Reed, Chester House winning the Million. The horse that skipped the Eddie Reed, Manndar, finishing second. But I don't know how much that told you necessarily, given all the traffic problems we saw. There's the poll.
There's the poll. Manndar with 23% of the vote, and you can see Chester House there, third place with our online handicappers, just getting 17% of the vote. Not too bad.
All you had to do was take the top 3 and box them in the exacta. That's it.
You could make some money.
Thanks.
Well, I love this time of year when things really start getting intense. We start narrowing things down, and we see who are the real players now as the races get bigger and more important as the year goes on. Certainly we'll look forward to a rematch of Manndar and Chester House. And Jostle today in the Alabama certainly declared herself the leader of the 3-year-old filly division.
That division seems to have the most focus, doesn't it, right now?
Well, we have to hear from Surfside. I mean, it's not over by any means, but that was a very overwhelming performance today.
But every other division seems wide open at this point, and usually by now you get a little bit of an idea, don't you?
Well, we've got a long way to go until the Breeders' Cup.
Okay. Jeff?
And Bobby Frankel, not bad for him. He seemed a little bit disappointed, but he did run second in the Bevely D and followed that up with a win in the Arlington Million.
Winning those $2 million races can do a lot for a man's spirit, and running second for $500,000 is not too bad either.